What's up, everybody? Chet Zar here, coming from the underground bunker of the Dark Art Society. Got a good episode for you today. Jason Hite, the amazing sculptor. Been friends with him for a long time. Started out like a normal interview, which is kind of what I thought it was going to be. I mean, we don't know each other that well. I've known him for a long time, but we've never, I don't know, we hung out once. He came over and I showed him some sculpting stuff and we were kind of just hanging out. But, so we never, haven't had a lot of time. We don't know each other that well, put it that way. So I had no idea that this interview was going to go where it did. And I'm very happy it did, because these are my favorite interviews. When you start talking about the weird stuff, the magic and the supernatural and all that sort of business. He's got some great stories, and we start off normal on this one, talking about sculpting and all that, and it kind of takes a left turn pretty early on and stays there the rest of the way. So I thoroughly enjoyed that interview. So I hope you'll enjoy it too, if you're into that sort of thing. I definitely am. Let's see. Art life update. Just, I'm just hanging in. Everything is kind of normal here, other than the fact that there's a lot of cars on my street because everybody's home during the day now. Had a collector come by. I got derailed from my tool poster doodles for a few days because I had to finish a big frame commission, putting these custom frames together for a collector, and that was a trip because we had to do the whole masks, the rubber gloves thing, and met in this little back room I have that's kind of disconnected from my house, because we're not letting anybody in the house, just to be safe. So that was interesting. It was kind of like the modern way to meet people nowadays, wearing gloves and masks. Just strange times. I'm still not freaking out yet, though. How about you all out there? Are you freaking out? I mentioned last week that I'm an optimist, so I'm trying to look at this optimistically, or at least find the positive aspects of it, because there are some positive aspects of it, such as the air is a lot cleaner in LA, I'll tell you that much. The pollution maps over China are crazy, or they were. I haven't checked them lately, but a couple days ago there was like no smog over China. So that's a good thing. And this, I wonder if people are going to reevaluate their lives now and consider how they're spending their lives. Maybe, I don't know. It's a good time to take stock and think. What if you only had a year to live? What would you be doing with your life? Would you be doing something different? Then maybe it's time to think about doing something different. I don't know, I'm just thinking about things. Spewing out my thoughts that come into my head. I'm in no position to tell people how to live. I just follow my nose, follow my intuition, and try and make do with the situation I'm given. And crazy as it sounds, I try and have gratitude, even in the bad times. They always say you should be grateful, you should have gratitude, which I agree. You should have gratitude for being alive, but you should have gratitude, or try and have gratitude or try and feel gratitude even when times are terrible. I've said it before to myself when I was going through some of the most miserable times of my life. I was able to go, you know what? I still have gratitude. I'm grateful that I'm going through this as much as it sucks, because I just believe that it's all good, kind of, on some level, on some higher level. It's easy to say when you're not dying or something, or have some horrible disease, or you're starving to death in another country, in some third world country. It's easy to say it's all good when you don't have to deal with that. So, but that's a deeper conversation, believe me. Anyway, enough of this. I'm just going to get on with the interview. I feel like I'm supposed to be saying something about this virus situation, but I don't really have anything to say about it. Like, I don't feel like I have anything to offer there, really. 'Cause I don't know what's going on, just like everybody else. I just know that I'm not freaked out about it. So, I don't know. It's weird. So I guess I'm not gonna talk about it. I could just talk about it, but, what the fuck do I know? I know about art, though. So let's talk about that. Okay. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, I was doing met with this collector. That was cool. Got a bunch of stuff done. Now I'm going to get back to my tool, poster doodles. I started shipping all the tool t-shirts, and I'm going to start shipping posters tomorrow and finishing the posters. As soon as I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to go start doing doodles on posters. That's been about it, other than my back's killing me. It's this old injury I got when I went to a tattoo convention, and I had to haul all these boxes of my crap up this really steep, long hill. And I just, was hauling back and forth all of this equipment. And when I got back from the convention, I got up out of bed one day and had the worst pain probably in my life shooting down my back, and I couldn't sit down. I had to either lay down or stand up. It was just excruciating. And I suffered with that for a bit, and then I finally went to the chiropractor, and then that snapped everything back into place, and I felt better, and after maybe 2 or 3 visits, felt 100% better. But now I can't really go to the chiropractor because of the virus. So I'm just suffering. Hopefully it'll go away. But it comes back from time to time. I don't know what the deal is, but it's fucked up. So I'm having trouble sitting in this chair right now, squirming around. That's basically it. That's what's been going on with me. Just still working, same deal. Okay. New subscribers. There are no new subscribers to the Patreon this month. But if you want to be mentioned next month, if you want to get the podcast a day early, if you want to be able to join the secret Facebook group where all the guests of the podcast are, and all the people that support the Patreon for $1 a month are, hanging out, talking about art, sharing their artwork, making connections, making plans for the dark art movement, you can go to patreon.com/Dark Art Society and join for $1 a month, and you can be a part of this whole thing in a more active way and help keep the podcast free for everybody else. So there. I think, is that all? I think that's all. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the interview because it's so good. Jason Hite, episode 156. Super good one. All right, enjoy, everybody. What's up, Jason?
Hey, what's going on, Chet?
Thank you for joining me. I'm interviewing you. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time, coming on the podcast. Hopefully we can offer a little distraction to everybody, to all the craziness going on right now.
Yeah, my pleasure. Love the show. Love what you do.
Thank you.
Fun, man.
Yeah, likewise. We've known each other for kind of a long time now, I think.
Yeah.
Right? How long has it been?
I met you actually the first conjoined.
Wow, 10 years ago. So it's like 10 years
ago. So I think I Facebook messaged you and was like, hey, I want to be in your show. And you said, hey, I'm going to invite you into my show. Or you said something
Yeah.
to invite me anyway. So I was like, cool.
That's cool. Yeah, your stuff. I love your stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I think we met at your show. I think that was the first time.
Cool. And then you showed up. One time you showed up to one of the shows. Was that conjoined where you showed up dressed as Nosferatu?
That was that was
so freaky.
That was actually what's his name show? It was oh my gosh, Chris Blasco show. It was
right.
the first curated show. It was the Halloween show.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were wearing like a ghost costume, I think. You had like an old school like retro mask.
I don't even remember.
It was a really fun night, and there was like coffins. It was a coffin there, and other people dressed up. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. You were. You looked really amazing as Nosferatu. I was like, who is? I didn't even recognize you. It was freaky looking too. It was
I like
super
totally
creepy.
I big shaved my head and put on prosthetic ears and wore things.
Do you have pictures of that anywhere?
Yeah, I'll send you some.
Oh yeah, we'll have to post that on Patreon. That looked so good. I think you were like getting ready in your car or something, and I was getting something out of my.
And I was like, "Hey man, what's up?" And
I was like, "Who the fuck is that?"
And I was like, "Do you know who I am?" And you were like, "Yeah, I know who you are."
It took me a minute. At first, I didn't. That's hilarious. Yeah, it was really.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was great though. So how I mean, how are things is kind of a weird question right now, but how are you holding up have they locked your city down yet?
No, they haven't. I live in Lakewood, Ohio.
Oh right.
And I moved here about a year and a half ago almost, and we love it here. It's a pretty densely populated area.
Is it?
It's a nice little kind of suburby city of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like West Cleveland. And they haven't locked things down. And actually, it looks like when I go out there, it looks like things are like pretty much business as usual.
Wow.
But I work from home and we homeschool, so I'm basically here all the time anyway.
Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it is for us too. It's like not really anything's changed too much other than just, being more careful about touching people or, shit like that. Yeah. But they just last night, they just announced LA's, I think, or all of California's kind of basically they're saying don't go outside for a while. So, but it's interesting though, because lots of people are taking walks because they said, still go outside, still do exercise. It's more not supposed to group together with people. So it's like everybody's home, all the cars are out, but everything's very quiet, and people are like jogging. All kinds of people are jogging and walking their dogs, and
I see that here too.
But it's
I ride my bike.
Yeah, but it's like the populated areas where the stores are and stuff. There's not a lot of traffic out. It's interesting. It's a trip.
I haven't seen that yet here. Like I went out to the stores yesterday. And there was actually a lot of people out. I was surprised because I haven't been out of the house for a few days, and I was like, man, I was thinking it'd be a ghost town, but there was a lot of activity. So I
Probably will soon. It'll probably be
yeah,
Ghost
I don't
Town
think people are
eventually.
taking it seriously. That's the thing that worries me. I think not enough people are taking it seriously and just,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
definitely. They are
stay.
when the governor comes on and says, you need to stay in the house, then people go, oh, okay. Seems like so
Yeah, yeah,
they'll do that
yeah.
eventually, I'm sure.
They haven't officially shut us down as far as making people stay home, but they've asked everybody, shelter in place,
Right.
yada yada yada. But yeah, it's been a little tense. I've been edgy.
Really? I had like
Yeah.
one day, I think it was the second day where I was kind of feeling stressed about it and kind of scared. And then I don't know what happened, but the next day I felt fine and I haven't really been worried about it since.
Well, that's great.
I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's, maybe it's the meditation. I don't know. It
Yeah,
helped.
I've actually been meditating more lately,
Mm. It's a
and
good,
that
perfect
has
time
helped.
for it.
I don't meditate. I don't think I would meditate as much as you do, but I have. I also do moving meditation, like qigong
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that, and that's like really helpful for me because I can't just sit still. I'm
Uh-huh.
very twitchy. I like to move around.
Yeah. You can sit still. You just don't like to sit still. Nobody likes
Yeah,
to
yeah.
sit
I
still
don't
for an
like.
hour, but you have to force yourself. That's the whole meditation
Is
thing.
that how long you meditate for an hour?
Well, no, in fairness, I haven't gotten to an hour. I'm up to like 45 minutes. And
I can do 20.
yeah, yeah. I was doing 20 for like the last 2 or 3 years, and I finally was like, okay, I can do 20, and I just kept pushing it 5 more minutes. Like every week, I'd go up 5 minutes, and then
Yeah.
I got up to about 40, 45, and then all this shit's happened, and now it's like kind of screwed my schedule up. But I've been doing shorter ones just because having to rearrange things and go and get groceries, and it's just been a little bit of a small amount of upheaval. But
And you're still painting, right?
well, right now I'm doing these doodles on tool posters, so I haven't painted in weeks.
Oh, okay.
I got a bunch of tool posters from that I did designs for them.
Yeah, those are awesome, by the
Oh,
way.
thanks. And then they send you ones to sell yourself
Oh,
to
okay,
your
cool.
people as kind of as the majority of your payment, and then those have been doing really well. So now I'm like, just doodling on the posters because I do these kind of elaborate doodles, customize each one.
Awesome. Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to getting back to painting. Once I get those
Yeah.
done, hopefully after next week, I'll be able to get back to painting. But yeah, I've gone weeks without leaving the house, so it's not that much different for me
Yeah, for
either,
me, it's not that much different either. It's just the news is what's freaking me out.
Mm,
That's I'm like, I gotta stop.
yeah, yeah. Well, the economy is the scariest part, I think, more scary than the virus because, even if you get the
Yeah,
virus, chances are you're going to survive the virus, even if you get it. It's like it's not like most of the people who get the virus die from it. It's not. It's like a small percentage of people who actually get it die from it. But
yeah,
it's
yeah. It's
the
like what
whole.
what kind of shape are we gonna be in 3 months
I know. I know.
as
That's the.
far as economy wise? It's
I
like,
know. And plus, all the. What else is trippy is all these people who are not used to working from home.
oh yeah,
There's gonna be people who really love it, and maybe at the end of this, there's gonna be a lot of people that are like gonna say, why can't we just work like this all the time? Which is probably a good thing. If we were able to do it, during the virus, why can't we do it now? But there's probably a lot of people that are just gonna be going stir crazy, and their partners are they're going to be getting on each other's nerves. But it's like, those of us who have been living this for years, it's like business as usual, kind of.
yeah, yeah. It does. It took me a while to get used to it.
Yeah,
I work.
yeah, it's hard to make yourself stay on a schedule, and
Like I have to shower. I can't. Like I know people who work from home who basically are in their pajamas all day, and I'm like, how can you do that?
yeah, I think
So,
it's a
but a shower or just getting ready, gets you kind
right.
of
Oh yeah, it
into your.
makes all the difference. Having like a routine and just you know getting ready in the morning for sure. I think maybe it's in the beginning when people adjust, they go through the pajama phase or the working in your boxers phase.
Yeah, although I have to admit I've been doing that lately because it's just weird getting up and
I know.
I'm like on my computer looking at the news immediately.
Right.
What's going on?
I know. I
Uh,
know. I know. But anyway, enough of that shit. I want to know about you.
okay.
So you moved from San Diego, right?
Yeah. I lived in San Diego for 20 years.
So before that, where were you born?
I was born in Ohio, so I'm basically
I get it.
I moved back to where my roots are.
Is this your hometown
So
that you moved to, or is it nearby?
no, I'm from Akron,
Oh
and
yeah, Devo.
yeah, yeah, I'm from Akron, and we almost moved there, but my wife really liked Lakewood, so we decided, let's try this out,
That's cool.
and we like it. It's really cool. It's a cool town.
Excellent. So you did you how old were you when you moved out of Ohio?
I was 22, and I moved to Los Angeles
Okay, were you
to get
sculpting by then?
experience. Oh yeah. I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh,
Oh, okay.
and then I did
I
like
know.
the whole makeup effects thing there. And that's
Yeah.
really what I wanted to be for years. And then I moved to LA in 1998 with a bunch of my college friends, and it was like, wow, this isn't as cool as I thought it would be. Kind of sucks.
My buddy Neil Wynn, who I worked at Spectrum Motion for a long time, went to that school and
Yeah,
moved out.
yeah. Actually, I think I've talked to him before.
Yeah, he's from that area, I think, somewhere around there.
No, my memory is terrible, but I
Yeah,
think I
mine too.
know him.
Yeah, probably. You probably seen him at the conventions.
Or I might have, depending on when he went to the Art Institute, he might have been in the same classes or whatever. But
Right, yeah. How old are you?
some, I'm 43.
Yeah, he's around that age too, I think. You guys may have gone to school together. Okay, so
Yeah, we probably did. I
what
did a lot of drugs back then.
what got you into effects in the first place? Like, were you into weird
I
shit when you were a kid? And
Yeah, I was into weird crap growing up. Monsters. I like drawing weird. My parents were always like, well, why can't you draw something nice? I'm sure you hear that.
I've heard that one
And
many
I was
times.
always into, I want to make monsters, and I want to, I don't know, draw horrible things. I don't know why. It just gravitated to. I think it was because I was really, really terrified of anything scary.
Mm-hmm.
Monsters, even sounds and music. As a like 3 and 4 year old,
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
I was terrified of that stuff. And then once I started drawing it, it sort of changed my perspective on all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And then now it's therapy for me.
Yeah, yeah. Totally, man. That's basically my life story as well.
Yeah.
I found like I had older brothers and cousins and stuff, and I remember like being a little kid. I've got a bunch of stories, but I remember doing like them doing the Ouija board and putting on like a scary Alfred Hitchcock record, Alfred Hitchcock with ghosts, like they had ghost sounds on there, and fucking terrifying me, but I was fascinated with it too. It was
Yeah,
weird. It
yeah.
was like I was
Sure.
repelled and terrified, but I also like, I don't know, I like the thrill of it maybe or something, or I don't know, instead of turning away from it, I turned towards it, and then yeah, you start drawing it in order to gain a sense of control over it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're that's very similar to my whole deal with it.
Yeah, and were you shy also, like a
Oh
shy?
yeah.
Yeah,
Extremely introverted.
yep.
Yeah. Very shy kid.
This is a
Um,
common story. This is a common story with a lot of people. If you listen to more
yeah. I
episodes,
listened to a couple, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this sounds. Yeah. I
it's
mean, I
like,
heard in one of your interviews you said you got a rapidograph set when you were a kid.
hmm.
I did too. I
Yeah,
love that thing.
I know. I got so into pen and ink for a while.
I thought for years I wanted to do comic books,
Yeah, yeah, me too.
and then over time I really got into movies,
Hmm.
and those were a huge influence on me. So then I'm like, oh, I should do effects, and
What were the movies that got you into it? Do you remember?
I saw Aliens when I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend's dad took us to the movie theater, and it was the first rated R movie I ever saw in the theater,
Uh-huh.
and it had a huge and I had never seen Alien,
Right.
so it had a huge impact on me.
Wow.
Just that movie, and then The Thing, probably a lot of the same movies that you like.
Yeah, definitely.
Even The Blob, I love The Blob, and I know you worked on that.
Yeah, that was one of the
I
first.
love that movie. The effects are amazing.
Yeah, the effects are great in that movie. Yeah, that was one of the first things I ever worked on, or the first.
And it still holds up. I mean,
I know. I watched it the other day.
I showed it to my kids like a month or two ago, and my 8-year-old loves that movie.
Really? there's a few shots that show show the age of it. The visual effects. It holds up pretty well, except for that. The main one that's really bad is the last shot of the hand. Do you remember that, where he's holding the jar up?
Yeah,
and yeah, that's a fake hand, and the actor is rear screen projected. This is how old school it was.
Oh wow!
So it was like a rear screen projection, and then they put a hand up, and they had that. I remember it was a rigid hand, and it had a glass jar in it, and then it had a cable going up through the forearm, and it controlled the little. Yeah, the little thing in there. When it's so funny to think that it so easily could have been a remote control thing, and the guy holding it, and not having to have that whole backdrop and compositing and all this crazy stuff.
The eye is focused on that little thing in there, so you're not like, I don't remember thinking that's a fake hand.
Watch it now. Watch it if you next time you get a chance. Watch just that last shot. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. So okay. You started. I mean, Dawn of the Dead. Because I'm a little older than you, so I'm like 10 years old.
Yeah, I like the whole.
You're 42.
Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Like, I love all those movies. Yeah, all the zombie movies. Return of the Living Dead.
It was Dawn of the Dead and The Howling were the two for me.
For you, okay.
Yeah, those I saw. Those I saw in the theater because I'm like 10. I think I'm 10 years older than you. I'm 52, so I saw those in the theater, and they were like completely. When I was too young, because my stepdad was super cool. We used to go see horror movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And those are what got me into it. And as soon as I saw those, it was that, plus I had a subscription to Famous Monsters magazine.
Okay, yeah. I had Fango.
Yeah. And then I got Fango. Then I discovered Fango, right? I mean, Famous Monsters I had probably when I was like 70, probably, let me see, 9 years old. My mom got me subscription to Famous Monsters, and then when I got maybe 12 years old, I saw Fangoria in a 7-Eleven, and I was like, "What is this magazine?" And then I got a subscription.
Covers always got me on that. Yeah, oh, that's crazy. What is that?
Yeah.
Still have a couple issues laying around.
I do too. I got a box of them somewhere. I need to go through them. They're pretty. Oh man, but I just used to look at all the pictures in there, and they had the behind the scenes pictures of like shops and them building things, and it just was so exciting. And I just started trying to learn on my own, reading books. And so was that basically your thing? I mean, how'd you start teaching yourself, or did you teach yourself? Did you just go straight to college after that to learn?
I got really lucky in high school. I was in the welding vocation. And I think I ended up doing a ton of welded sculpture.
Wow, that's cool.
Our teacher was sick, so we had like a substitute, so we could basically do anything we wanted for pretty much a year. Wow. And at first we screwed off a lot. We did some really bad stuff. Time we smoked out the whole school and shut the school down.
Oh my god!
On purpose. We didn't get in trouble. But anyway, so yeah, I did a lot of welding sculpture, and that was sort of the foundation of where I started really sculpting. I mean, I was already drawing at the time,
right?
But then doing that welded sculpture stuff was like huge for me, and then that's how it led to I got a scholarship to the Art Institute, and then it just kind of built from that.
And then you learned. Did you learn kind of your clay sculpting in the Art Institute?
Kinda, yeah. Like I remember my first rake was a butter knife. Oh, yeah. Like I remember it was Jerry. You know Jerry Gergely?
Yeah.
You know that guy?
I know who he is. I don't know him personally.
he was one of my teachers, and I remember him showing me that, or somebody. It was either him or I think it was him. Yeah. Uh,
I never thought
yeah.
about the
So
butter
that's
knife. It's a good one.
yeah, and I was really into Sculpey um, before I even went to college. I kind of discovered sculpting in high school
Mm.
when I tried to sculpt an alien, and then I used to sculpt. I had a kneaded eraser. I had a bunch up, and I would always sculpt things on my kneaded eraser, like hands or alien heads, penises, or especially during Spanish class.
Yeah, right. That's great. So okay, you did have a little bit of a sculpting background or interest in sculpting, and so were you trained in effects basically? Did you do the effects program? Because it's like they have an effects program at that college, right?
Yeah, they had an effects program at the time. I don't think the college exists anymore, or at least not that particular branch.
Right.
I think.
They were like one of the only schools that taught that at the time, I think.
Yeah, they were. It was, and a lot of people. There was a bad rap coming like from that school because some of the kids just didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember people saying, "Don't tell everybody you went to that school," and blah blah blah. But
you know what though?
For me, it was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me interrupt you really quick. This guy, I always talk about this guy, Mitch Devane, who's like the best sculptor in effects.
I remember you telling me about.
Yeah, he just retired recently, and he was amazing, brilliant, like way better than everybody else. He was just, especially when it comes to duplicating life, doing prosthetics that look absolutely 100% skin textures perfect. He started at the Joe Blasco makeup school, which was also had like kind of a crappy reputation for being kind of hacky. And then his first job, he worked at John Beekler's, and John Beekler's shop did all kinds of goofy effects that weren't that great, like ghoulies and all this stuff. But so it doesn't matter, if you're getting an education from somewhere, it's like, it's what you do with it and how you apply it to yourself. So anyway, I just wanted to interject there. So
yeah, I totally agree. Because there were kids that would hang out in the smoke room at the Art Institute, and that's pretty much all I remember them doing. But then there were kids like me and others that basically I loved it. It was like I could do anything I wanted. I didn't have to
so much
fake
fun.
it.
It must have been super fun, man.
It was a lot of, and I was living in Pittsburgh, so I was a couple hours from home. So I lived, it was the first time I was away from home, and
wow,
a lot of great memories.
Yeah.
And then right after that, the dream of going to LA, and then, hoping to sculpt, and then, I'm casting bones, in a mold for 8 hours.
Right.
And then, after about 9 months of that, I ended up getting like a call from a Halloween company in San Diego, and they were interested in some of my they were looking to hire another sculptor. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a job where I could sculpt full time.
Yeah.
And I had to go through like a whole thing with them. I had to submit a sculpture to them and all that, and it went through a whole jury process. But anyway, they picked me, and I got to work there. And I worked there for 13 years as a full-time sculptor at this place called Disguise. Wow. So it wasn't in movies where I really learned sculpture. It was in Halloween.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's
so
fun.
That's
it's so you never did any movie stuff.
I did a little. I worked on a couple movies. I worked for Jerry McCluso at Soda Effects for a month. Mm-hmm. He's really my only person I really know and worked with there. I worked for a couple other places, but that was the one. I did some makeup stuff and some live casting, but I never got to go to set.
It's so funny though, because I remember we talked about this years ago. How I think that the Halloween industry is probably more fun than working in the movie industry. I mean, it's just because when you work, I don't know, it's probably 6 of one, half a dozen of another type situation. But I was always envious that you were working in the Halloween industry because it seemed like
that's funny because I'm the other way. I'm envious that you were.
I know, but it's like I suppose there's probably more resources in the film industry, so you could do things really badass, and they have to look amazing and perfect and super real. And
there's probably more pressure to do,
right,
and there's budgets.
Yeah, right. So it's. yeah, it's but I know that Tony Gardner, the guy I worked for 10 years, he started a mask company. Actually, we started a mask company. He kind of financed it, and then me and a few other people basically did it, started it, created it, and sculpted the masks, and for like 3 years, and that was really fun. It was so much fun just sculpting masks and stuff. It wasn't fun when we started mass producing masks, because we were doing all the stuff there. It wasn't like we were getting it done in Mexico or anything. So
okay,
it was total assembly line. Hire some kids
that's not fun.
Out of high school and training them. These are like on summer vacation from high school to come in and work for cheap, teaching them how to paint the same mask over and over. That wasn't that fun, but making this stuff was great, man.
Yeah, I mean, ideas. I still have dreams that I'm there in the old building where I sculpted for 10 years or whatever.
Right.
With the guy. It was like me and like 5 or 6 other guys in a room all day just sculpting and listening to music.
That sounds like effects, man. That sounds exactly like makeup effects.
I mean, it was probably, when I look back, it was probably the best working time in my life, because it was so fun to just be a kid all day and play with clay and be silly.
Yeah. No, it sounds. I think it was probably more like makeup effects than you realize. It was, And the thing is, you go on set once. Some people love to go on set. I never really liked going on set. It's boring. It's really boring until it's your time, and you have to be quiet. If you're on set. Super boring, and then when it's time to do your thing, there's a lot of pressure, and you have to be the kind of person that's like, okay, we can't start shooting. I have to touch this makeup up and go in there and walk on the set in front of the crew, do a touch up, shit like that.
And I was waiting on you.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't like that. I'm not that kind of person. You know what I mean? I'm way more like a behind the scenes. I'd rather not be in that position.
Yeah. Well, my favorite place to be is in my headphones and in some clay or drawing. That's where I'm most productive.
Yeah, you're gonna love the Steve Wang episode, because we went off talking about how much fun we had, because it really brought back a lot of memories for me, because I've spent so much time bashing the film industry, but talking to him made me realize, again, I've realized this since I've been out a number of times, but it made me realize how much fun I had. Just basically what you're saying, playing music, working around a bunch of artists you respect and like, and just sculpting monsters. It's really pretty damn fun. You can't really beat it as far as jobs go.
I mean, I pretty much had the same experience making monsters, rubber heads.
Mm-hmm. Did you have like a mold shop and stuff, or were you guys kind of doing everything?
Yeah, we did the whole thing. It was
so you did molds and castings and all that shit?
Yeah, that's where I learned how to do sculpting, molding, casting, painting. That's doing, I think we would do probably 100 or 200 items a year, and it ranged from masks to weapons to costume accessories, chess pieces,
new pieces, like 200 new pieces.
Yeah, between me and 4 other guys, 5 other guys, sometimes 8 people.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. But I mean, some of it was like little stuff.
Yeah, right.
But other things were, huge. And when I look back at all those lines of things, I can really see like the progression over the years, because I wasn't that great.
Right.
But over time, you kind of learn these things from other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Instead of using a butter knife as a rake, I was, I had 5 different rakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you were doing probably mostly wed clay sculptures, I imagine.
Yeah, mostly wed clay. And the guy who ran my shop at the time, the best time when we were there, his name was Paul Palmieri, and he came from LA. He worked in LA for a number of years. So I kind of learned, like, he taught me a bunch of stuff, and he brought his whole, like, because he worked in an effects shop for I don't know how many years.
I know that the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, like he knew Steve, and he knew Jordu and other people. Right. He even hired Jordu to do a couple things for us at the time.
Oh, really?
So he would show me stuff that he learned from like Miles Tevis or some other people. So I
Right.
would kind of get things that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Jordu worked in the Halloween industry for a while too. I think that's yeah because
Yeah,
he's been on the
I think.
show. We talked. He got hired by that Ed Edmonds guy, the Distortions
Oh, okay,
Unlimited.
yeah, that sounds about right.
I think that's where.
Jordan's a character. We got to hang out with him a couple
Oh
times.
yeah, he's a
He's a
character.
lot of fun.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He should have been an actor, comedian. Not that he should. He's such a great sculptor. It's not true to say he should have done that, but he could have been an actor as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, he's a character,
Totally.
total
Uh,
character.
but he's an amazing sculptor. He's a great designer, sculptor. So yeah, that sounds like you know what it sounds like to me. It sounds like it the old days of effects because
Oh,
were
for
you
me,
guys
yeah,
yeah where you guys were doing which is the thing that the old timers in the shop we would always reminisce about the early days when it was like everybody did everything, like you had to know everything, you had to know how to mold and cast,
yeah,
you seamed stuff, you painted it, you kind of
yeah.
started a thing and took it all the way through.
That's
And,
what we did a lot of. We had to take it all the way through.
right.
We did have a caster
Mm,
for a while. Scott Klein. Oh
mm.
man, that guy was a character. Um,
But
yeah, so he did some of that stuff, but mostly I had to do all my own molds, all my own casting, all my own painting.
it's very
But it was great
yeah
because
no
now that I'm on my own, I can do all that stuff
exactly.
myself.
Well, plus it keeps things from getting too boring,
Yeah,
because that's one thing that's kind of it's good in one way, but it's not so good in another. When we're in like at Rick Baker's shop or Spectral Motion, it's like there's a mold department, there's a seaming department, there's a casting department, there's a sculpting department, there's a painting department, there's a mechanical department, and you're like it's an assembly line kind of situation where you do the sculpture and then you hand it off and then
and I heard he did that on purpose
what's
so
that?
that I heard that he did that on purpose so that people couldn't learn too much.
No, Rick's.
No, okay, all right.
No. It's like every
Or
shot.
it's just more efficient that way.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're working on a level where he's got 50 to 75 or I think 100 people working on a big show.
Oh wow.
It's like a business. But I mean, when he first started, all the American Express, American Werewolf,
Yeah,
American
yeah.
Werewolf stuff was um, all done with 6 people or something, a crew of 6 people that kind of did everything. They ran the foam latex, they did everything. It wasn't like
Okay.
from what
Yeah.
I've heard. So
Yeah, when you have not a huge crew, everybody's sort of the more the I think the more valuable you are
hmm
as an employee or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
because then you jump onto other things.
yeah. I think when I got in on the Blob around the time of the Blob, it was shops were just really starting to be more like that. Mid '80s shops were starting to be like having departments. But I think prior to that, or probably a big show like The Thing, I'm sure was very compartmentalized or departmentalized. I imagine
Yeah.
something big like that, but I don't know. I wish I worked on that, but I didn't.
Yeah, I heard didn't what's his name go kind of nuts after that? I heard he was like sick.
Yeah, yeah. He apparently he went into the hospital for mental exhaustion. But if I don't know this for a fact, but the rumor is when they say mental exhaustion, it usually means you're taking a lot of drugs and not sleeping. You know,
Yeah.
because I think
That's
there
to
was
me
so
that's
much to
that's
do, and
the Citizen Kane of effects. Like that movie has like in my opinion the best physical effects ever.
oh yeah, yeah,
In my opinion.
nothing comes close, especially for the time.
There's some that come close, but that one has like the most and the broadest range of cool shit
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, true. One that I liked that doesn't get talked about that much. I thought it was so great. because all the monsters in it was what the hell's that movie? Was it Cabin Fever? It's the one where there's like, oh God, I'm completely.
You're going Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods with all the
Where it's got like a ton of monsters all like around. It's like a whole ceremony. Yeah, that's a great.
I thought that was such a great, fun movie, and I remember seeing that and going, man, I wish I got to work on that. Because that had so much...
Yeah, because they had to make a lot of those monsters, and they kind of like they riffed off of like I remember seeing like Cenobite like Clive Barker in there, and
and
they
some
had
classic
a whole bunch of
classic kind of monsters, new versions of like the creature from the Black Lagoon kind of, but it was like a mermaid monster type thing.
That was cool, and they were all in like cells. And the most of that stuff looked physical. I think a lot of it, physical effects.
I think it was. But,
I love physical effects in movies. I'll watch a movie if it has physical effects.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if it's got cool physical effects. Like there was a movie that came out recently that I really liked called The Void. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that was good.
And that they did a lot of physical. It's a low budget horror movie, but it's actually really well done.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was lots of cool stuff in that. I need to watch that one again. That was the one with the weird cult.
Yeah, there's like a
hospital.
Like this weird triangle thing. Right. Yeah, there's like a skinned guy at the end. He doesn't have any skin. Right. It's like some kind of, I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully they keep doing those. Keep making those kind of movies.
I don't think they'll ever go away.
Yeah,
It's like us out there who like making this shit.
It's weird. I really thought it was kind of over. Everyone in effects, or most effects people, when Jurassic Park came around, thought like, oh, this is the end of effects, and because no one had ever seen anything like what Jurassic Park did with computers.
It
was so
CG
real.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, but it did change things, and it did kind of cause the whole industry to kind of go downhill. But I'm surprised that I thought it was just going to get to where there's just no effects really anymore, just like tiny little, maybe a few people doing it. But I'm surprised it's kind of kept going. It's still happening.
I have friends that are still doing it, and I still see some, posts every once in a while. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
I know.
Like the whole, what was it? Dark Crystal. Like that's basically one giant effect.
I know. I got asked to work on that too, and I couldn't do it. It would have been fun, but it
would have been fun, but like I see it, I'm like, oh man, as I know Russ Lukage, and I saw he did some stuff for it. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Go Russ,
Yeah. I worked with Russ a lot at Spectral. Russ is really cool.
Yeah, I went to school with him. He's from Akron too.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know he's from Akron.
We actually moved out to LA together.
Wow. Oh, he's one of the people. He's one of the guys.
One of the guys. Yeah.
That's so funny.
He made it. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm doing Halloween.
No, he's great. He's a great guy. I should have him on the podcast. He's really funny.
Yeah, you should. He's an amazing sculptor. He does great stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, I didn't know he's from Akron. That's funny. You Akron people. Marilyn Manson's from. I thought he was from Florida.
No, he's from Akron.
No way! Wow, Akron must be like a fucked up place because Devo.
It is, yeah.
Marilyn Manson. Those are both weird in their own, really weird in their own way. If you look at
there are other people there.
What's that?
From there. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that's from there.
Isn't Chrissy Hind from the Pretenders?
I don't even know who.
From the
Pretenders. Is she?
I think she's Yep. She wrote that song about it.
Oh, okay, yeah, Devo. They're from Akron.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like Devo. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the. Everybody knows I'm a huge Devo fan, and I don't know if you've ever seen any of their old stuff they did in Akron.
No.
Oh God, it's so fucked up. And great. and great. Dark and weird and twisted. I mean, if you're not a Devo fan, you probably know them like as the Whip It Band, but they're not.
Yeah, that's what I know. I'm not a huge Devo. I like them and respect them, but I'm not like
you
a
gotta.
big fan.
I'm gonna send you some links because they're amazing. They were
Yeah,
doing this
some stuff. I'll check it out.
They were doing these, these some of the first music videos ever, in like 74, maybe 75, and they're art films. Like they were an art collective. They didn't even consider themselves a band. It was like they kind of became a band as part of this art project. It's just one aspect of the art project, because it was all, the de-evolution. Humans are de-evolving. That was their whole concept, Devo.
Okay.
And so it's all totally twisted and fucked up. And I just posted a video, one of their old videos the other day, and I was just watching it. And it's like, man, Akron must be a weird place to inspire. Devo's as dark as Marilyn Manson, but in a different way.
In a totally different way.
Yeah. Super. So it's like, what's up with Akron?
It was a great place to grow up for me. I mean, it was playing outside as a kid, and I mean, I had a pretty good childhood. I mean, I had some messed up things happen to me.
Yeah.
Violence, that kind of thing, but for the most part, it was good.
Well, they talk about in the early 70s, it was like people coming home from Vietnam, and they were like the rubber capital of the world.
Yeah, it was.
And all the factories were shutting down in the 70s, so it became really depressed. That's what they were saying. So they're kind of like living in this wasteland. They used to be really prosperous,
Yeah, that's how it's got worse since then too.
I bet. Yeah.
Years when I lived in California, I'd fly home and I'm like, oh, that place is now a strip club. Oh, that place is now a bar.
Right.
It just sort of went downhill, and yeah, it's not terrible there.
Right.
But, I mean, it's not like it was when I was a kid.
Yeah, right. I can't. I'm gonna. If you're not into Devo, there's so much amazing stuff. You have to. It's like you have to, because they came from your town.
Yeah,
and it's good.
I've always respected them, so I would totally listen to it. My musical stuff, like I used to be very focused on what I'd listen to, but now it's kind of opened up more.
What were you into before?
I was really into. First, it was super like heavy metal, and then I got into industrial, which I still love, and then electronica. But now it's just kind of anything, kind of.
Well, Devo is very related to industrial and electronica too. So
yeah,
they were circuit bending and doing weird, fucking their synthesizers up in like the early 70s, trying to make things all weird sounding. And
oh, that's cool. I love synthesizers.
Yeah,
I've recently got a couple because
really?
I love them so much.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm totally into it too. I got a Micro Brute, which was a cheap.
Oh, nice! I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, that was the first. When I was a kid, because of Devo, I was so into synthesizers that I saved up all my money, and I got the. It was Realistic, the company that did stuff for Radio Shack, or that was their brand. Radio Shack had a brand which was Realistic, so they would produce their own stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They produced a synthesizer that was based on the Mini Moog, their version of it,
shit.
Yeah, and I still have it. It's fucked up, and it needs to be kind of like cleaned up and all the pots replaced. But I just save up.
Works.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But it's some of it's like all crackly sounding because it's all dusty and.
Yeah, there's probably dust in there.
But yeah. So I've been into synthesizers since I've forever. So what do you got? What two do you got?
Well, I have a Moog. I have a Moog, a grandmother. Do you know what that is?
Oh yeah. I want to get one of those so bad.
Dude, it is a blast. I can lose hours on that thing. I got a grandmother, and then I got a DFAM, which is like it's also a Moog. It's like a drum machine, but it's analog.
Oh, cool.
So, and it only has 8. What do you call it? It's an 8-step sequencer.
Okay.
So basically, it repeats 8 steps.
Right.
But dude, get some really fat like beats on that, and then just totally tweak it out. And I thought if I was brave enough, I was actually going to try to do the podcast with you and have all of that in front of me and just tweak on it while we're talking. I was like, no, that's a little too much.
You play sounds, do accompaniment,
just weird sounds, because I mean, I'm not really like, I don't know how to play the piano, but I can make some cool shit with it.
Yeah. Is the grandmother, is that polyphonic, or is it like a monophonic?
It's a mono synth. Yeah, it's all analog.
Right.
It's one key at a time.
Yeah.
But it's got like a really awesome sequencer, and the arpeggiator is really great.
Yeah,
So
I love arpeggiators.
And it plays well with all the other. Like, I also got a Mother 32, which is another Moog. So I have technically three synthesizers.
Wow.
So when I get all those going, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're great. You're gonna love Devo. You're just gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I'm telling you. It's
Yeah, for me, like the whole I'm really a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. I love all that stuff, and I watched some documentary, I Dream of Wires. You know about that one?
Yeah, I've seen that.
And they talk about the Moog, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta get this thing.
Yeah.
And I found out that what's his name? Stevie Wonder had, he also used the Moog, and I started listening to his music. I'm like, oh my god, he's a genius.
Oh, totally. Yeah, Stevie Wonder is amazing.
So that's like, just getting into that instrument has kind of broadened my horizons on, there's a lot of great stuff there I've been missing.
Yeah, absolutely, a lot of different styles of music. There's a great Mark Mothersbaugh, the singer of Devo, talks about, he got one of the first production mini Moogs.
Wow.
And he said he went to Robert Moog's place in upstate New York to pick it up, and it was a big giant barn full of all these mini Moogs, like stacked up like 10 feet high. Pretty amazing. Pretty cool.
For me, it's dangerous when I look at that stuff, because I'm like, I could buy another one of those.
I know. That's why I got that micro brute, because it was like $300 or something. It was, or 200 something. It was really cheap, and I was like, I
almost bought one of those.
It's cool. It's great, and plus it works. When I have time, I have Logic, the audio program.
Yeah, hooked up so you can record.
Yeah, and it works like the keyboard basically works as a trigger for all the
okay.
The drums and everything on the in the program. So you could just completely, any synthesizer, module they have in the program, you can play on your little keyboard.
That's awesome. Do you have any like samples, or like, can you listen to anything you've made? Have you recorded anything?
Oh, the song intro I did.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I was going to ask you who does that.
That was me playing the bass and the guitar real time, but the drums are from Logic, and I played them I programmed them through the key, that micro brute.
Wow, that is awesome. I was suspecting it was something from like Tool or some like.
This guy, I did it on. I started it on the iPad Pro, in GarageBand, and then I exported it to Logic, and then I kind of re-recorded the bass and drums, or bass and guitar, and then the guy who used to do the audio engineering for this show, Brian Kilgore, took it and like made it sound so good. I don't know what he did. He like that's his job though. That's what he does. It made it sound like a professional recording. It's kind of amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah. Have you ever messed with GarageBand or any of these recording programs?
Yeah, I have. I actually, when I was in San Diego, like when I first moved there in the early 2000s, I took a music recording class. Oh. So I learned like how to use a mixer, and we did a little bit of GarageBand, and took some music theory and all that. Like for a while, I'm like, I could do this,
Yeah, right.
Musician, but it came down to I like to draw,
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I was trying to make it in a band for like 10 years, like seriously trying to make it, and then, wow. It's just hard to keep a band together. The last time it was like you'd lose a member and then you'd have to get a new person, and then by the time it all completely, like, everybody quit or it kind of fell apart, and I was just like, okay, I got to give up on this dream. It's been 10 years and I haven't. It's just not working. I mean, the band was good and it got to a place where I thought the music was really good, but it wasn't clicking for whatever reason with people.
Yeah.
And so, but it was like the best thing that ever happened to me, because I completely, I don't know, like, denied this whole fine art idea that, the earliest memory I have is that I was a painter, and that, like, the first grade I used to think about it.
Wow.
Yeah, like I just knew I was an artist, and I used to imagine me being a painter, like, all dressed like in a white smock and everything, and an easel, like, typical. And but I got into makeup effects and got kind of sidetracked into makeup effects, and I was completely obsessed with that. And then I got into punk music when I was around 17, and then I started playing guitar, and I got really then 19, 20, early 20s, I was like, makeup effects was my job, and then the music was sort of the extra thing I was trying to get happening. And I got totally into music and the band and songwriting. And so
it's another form of art, it's just
yeah. It's just basically, like the idea of, like, being a fine artist, though, was just not on my radar that whole time at all until I basically gave up on the dream of music and realized that I wanted to get out of effects. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll be a painter. I can do that, I think. And then, then I fell in love with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your stuff's amazing. I mean, it's always, like, exciting to see.
I appreciate it.
New stuff that you've done, it's always really cool.
Thanks. Same with you. I got one of your pieces on my wall. I've got more than one of your pieces, but I got that one creepy silver one hanging up.
Wait.
What's it called?
No, yeah. Behind the Veil.
Yeah, Behind the Veil. That's a great piece, man.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a fun piece. That actually, it's funny, like, that piece started out as a totally different piece. I actually have two versions of it.
Oh, really?
There's a female version.
Oh, wow.
That I sculpted first. And what I did is I put the skull inside. I put a real skull inside, not a real skull, but a cast of a real skull inside. Mm-hmm. And then I sculpted the female on top of it. And I'm like, cool.
I didn't know that.
And I took all the clay away and then sculpted the underside. And the finished piece was supposed to be both of them together, and, like, the female would be clear, and then cast
wow.
Teeth would be so you could see everything. But I never made it that far.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a tall order.
Yeah, I have the molds and all. I could make it still. I'm just,
Yeah.
I get bored, so I had to move on.
That's it's an amazing piece. That'd be a good piece for the little promo card.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that piece has got a weird history too.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. If you want to talk about it, you can.
Yeah, this would be the place to talk about it.
Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, I decided that piece was made for Conjoined.
Right.
That was my intention. Was I wanted to do it for Conjoined, and then I don't know. I think about 2 months before the show, I was like, I contacted Grant Standard. I'm like, hey, could you make this into bronze for me? Or actually, I asked for stainless steel,
mm-hmm.
and he said he couldn't do it in the time frame, but he could do it in the time frame in bronze. So, I had the mold, so I sent him a wax casting, blah, blah, blah. So he made the piece. It looks amazing. I still have the bronze.
Mm.
And then it went to the show, and Gary was like, dude, this thing weighs 100 pounds. I can't hang this on the wall.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
So it sat on the floor, and I remember Chris Velasco gave me so much shit over that. Like, he was like, this is funny. It was on a trash can lid. Like, for that show, and I was just like, oh my God, I spent so much money to have a big bronze.
Oh, man. Sorry about that. I remember, he couldn't get it. He was like, I remember he was trying to hang it and he couldn't get it. He
Yeah,
couldn't
I
get
mean,
it to
it weighed
hang.
45 pounds, and it's hard for me to hang. It's hard to even lift.
Yeah.
So I should have just sent a freaking resin copy painted look like
Right.
that. And I would have saved myself a ton of money, and I might have actually sold the piece.
Right.
But anyway, so after the show, I bring the bronze home, and then I started having these really strange dreams of people in my house, and then strange things started happening.
Really? People in your house?
Yeah, like people in my bed that I didn't.
Wow.
And then one night, at the time, my youngest son was 2,
Uh-huh.
and they kept having nightmares and stuff. And then one night, I felt something hit me in the chest, like actually like punch me in the chest, not hard, but just like that, just kind of like a pop in the chest.
Were you in the hypnagogic half asleep state, or were you awake, like fully awake?
I just had my eyes closed. I was awake, but I was
Really?
trying to go to sleep. I wasn't in between. I
Right.
was,
Wow.
and there was nobody else awake around me. So
Yeah.
my wife told me that she used to feel people touching her
Uh-huh.
while she was sleeping. And then it started getting to the point where my wife, while I was at work, was starting to have stomach pains, and all this other weird stuff started happening. And then it would stop when she'd leave the house.
Whoa.
And then my kids reported them like somebody grabbing their feet when they were sleeping.
Holy shit.
And they were pretty young, and I don't think they were making
I mean, we talked about I remember when this was going on, you were telling me about it, but you didn't go into this much detail.
Yeah, it got weird. And we were freaking out. And then we had some people over, because I have a friend who's a psychic. She does like tarot card readings and does Reiki and all that. She's really amazing. And she hooked us up with some people that came over, and they basically went through our house, and they basically fixated on that sculpture, because I had the bronze on my wall, and they were like, "This is the piece."
Whoa.
They said that something was coming through the skull. I don't know. It was weird.
Wow. That's kind
And they were like, they were like, "You need to have anything that comes into your house that's bronze needs to be blessed before it enters your home."
Huh.
So I took the bronze out of my house. I took it to a friend's house. And one of my friends, Scott, was like, "Hey, I'll take it. I'm not afraid of your freaking sculpture."
Right.
So I took it to his house. It sat in a box for months. And then eventually I brought it back home, and I basically wrote stuff like what my intentions were for that sculpture. I think I told you this. I wrote like, it's a protective thing, blah, blah, blah. And then I burned that, and I rubbed the ashes all over it. It sounds crazy.
No, I mean, this is, I'm so, no, to me, it doesn't sound crazy, because I've been studying magic for the last couple of years. So like ceremonial magic and stuff. So it's that's fully a magical ritual, whether you knew what you were doing or not, writing your intention down, burning it, rubbing the ashes. This is completely in line with magical ceremonial practice.
Yeah, it was all about, like what your intentions were on the,
It's crazy that you would kind of did you know what you were doing, or were you just kind of going by your intuition, or did someone tell you to do that?
They said that I need to do something to like put my intention on it, and then I came up with write it down, burn it, put the ashes on it.
It's interesting though, don't you think though? It's so close to, it's like basically it's sigil magic in a way. When you do sigil magic, you write your intention down. The only step that's missing is you take the letters, get rid of the consonants, get rid of repeating letters, and then you turn it into a symbol, which is a sigil.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And then you kind of concentrate on it, and the theory is that your subconscious is what does all the magic, and your subconscious sees the sigil. Mm-hmm. And even though you're not looking at the words, your subconscious knows what the sigil represents, what the words are, so it's able to access your subconscious more easily. And then you burn the paper that that's a common way. Yeah, is burning the paper when you're done. So it's just interesting that you would tune into that kind of naturally.
That's weird.
So anyway,
ever
okay.
since then, like, I pay attention when I make something, because when I made that piece, the whole time I was making it, I was thinking of things beyond the veil of our existence in the spirit realm and all that kind of stuff.
And you used a human skull?
And I used a real human skull, and that somehow manifested in its own weird way into my life. That's in a negative way. But then I turned it into something positive.
Right.
So, and now it just sits in front. It's like the first thing people see when they come in my house. It's basically my protector. You know what I mean? Like, to keep negative energies out, or whatever you want to call that.
That's crazy, man. That's pretty amazing. And so after that, the weird stuff stopped happening?
It all stopped.
Whoa.
Yeah. None of that happened. Right now, and I've sculpted a few guardians, what I call guardian sculptures, that I keep around the house, of things that I put the intention on, that, they're good luck things or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of woo-woo sounding to me, and the logical part of me is like, this is crazy. But then there's the intuition in me is like, no, this is right. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's the shit's real. Stuff is real. I was part of this class I'm taking that he does. This guy is teaching it, does like a video conference with all of his students once a month or so, or once every couple of weeks. And I remember around a certain time that someone got in contact with me, and it was a weird message on Facebook. It was strange. It was just the way it was worded felt funny to me. It just seemed weird. And he's like, I got this. This witch is going to do this ceremony and for me, and I paid her a lot of money, and she's going to use the blood of a goat or a lamb or something. Whoa. And she's going to conjure Lucifer, which is, I think the spirit of Lucifer, and I want you to, I was wondering if I could, hire you to paint this. And I was like, one hand I was kind of like, I could use the money. And then the other hand I was like, this sounds feels a little dangerous to me. And so I asked him, I was like, can you kind of bring negative energies? What do you think about? I asked him, what do you think about this? This is the situation, and I was like, do you think it's you can kind of attach yourself to certain energies by painting something like this based on what this guy is doing, whatever they're doing? Who knows what the fuck they're doing? And he was like, absolutely. He was like, absolutely. I wouldn't recommend doing it. And so I turned the guy down because it was like, it just felt funny.
That sounds too negative. Like, you don't bring that kind of vibration into your life.
Yeah. So it's just the idea, though, that set aside logic, but the idea that artists can create kind of portals for things to come through is really interesting, and it's especially interesting for people who do monster stuff, because I know for me, I don't feel that I've ever created anything for any kind of negativity to come through. And I don't know why that, even though some of the stuff I do is, kind of horrible looking, but I feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the intention behind it or something. I don't know why yours would do that, though. It's almost like you're, because you could. It's just art and magic are very similar. Creating artwork is very similar to doing a magical working or something. It really is. It's like a ritualized creation of something, and magic is basically creating a ritual to create and manifest something in your life.
Exactly. Well, there was another part of that story. So apparently during the whole, like when Grant was making that piece, there was weird stuff going on in his life that I don't know about.
Oh, wow.
And I remember hearing this. I think I heard some of it through you.
Yeah, oh, okay, right.
He was
Yeah.
doing a ton of smudging. You know what that is, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Lighting
He
sage and all
he
that kind of stuff.
he had a weird thing happen to him. I don't want to. It's personal for him, so I don't want to get too far into it.
Yeah, yeah.
But for the Ego Death show, he had kind of like a kind of a weird. The weirdness started at the Ego Death show, which is my big show.
Yeah, and this was around the same time.
Right.
And that's when the piece was made. And so I don't
Wow. Wow. What a trip, man.
because I got advice from him on like what to, like because I told him what was happening. He was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry. You know, I had this weird stuff happening to me. You know," and he recommended some people. I'm like, "What the heck, man? I'm never bronzing anything ever again." You know.
Yeah, it's a trip, man.
You know,
It's weird. It's weird. The thing, it's just it's weird. I don't know what to say about it because it's like, I'm as logical as the next guy. I'm a science guy. I think science is awesome and amazing, but there's just things that are not explainable. Not
yeah.
everything can be explained. That's all there is to it. Anybody that doesn't believe that, go and fucking do one ritual to the letter. There are many simple rituals you could do and see what happens, because it'll fucking happen if you follow the thing. It's been, if you want to see if it's real, there are many very simple ways of doing things. And it's like, I've been doing that stuff, since I was a kid, because my mom taught me how to do it when I was like 10
wow.
years old. Yeah. How to manifest things. It was more the new agey version, like The Secret.
Yeah.
More like
Okay, yeah.
love and light type stuff, but all that stuff, The Secret is totally based on Hermeticism and occultism for sure.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that kind of stuff. From an artistic standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's always like I'm really into. It sounds cheesy, but astral travel. Like
it's not. You're talking. You don't need to qualify it by saying it's cheesy. You're talking to me here.
So as a kid, I remember I have these things that I thought were dreams, but now as an adult, when I look at them from the memory aspect, I don't think I was dreaming. I think I was just out of my body,
Right.
just going places. And I had a few people tell me that when I sleep, I go far, like I go places.
Wow.
Like other realms, whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Because I have really vivid dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people where like, people will say, "Oh, you must have crazy dreams." I'm like, "Yep, yeah."
Now, okay, so I have really vivid dreams also. Like I dream all fucking night. Like I cannot remember when I wake up. I can't remember a fraction of it. It's really hard for me because it's just like every night I have these epic dreams, but I never dream about cool monsters or anything or creatures. Do you ever have any of those?
Yeah, I've actually, I do. Sometimes I dream of stuff, like I'm looking at stuff I've made and it's stuff I haven't made. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's cool.
And I've dreamt of stuff that I've made later.
Oh, wow. That's a trip.
Which is trippy.
Wow. The one time I had a weird monster it was in an out of body. It was weird, man. It was totally like I was floating around, completely conscious and aware. Not like you when you go into that state, you're like, oh, this is not a regular dream. It's like lucid dreaming, but it's different. And I was floating around, and I was all of a sudden in this kind of dark underground caverns, and there was like holes in the walls of this. It was like a long tunnel almost with different holes that you could go down, and there was all these like arrows, like electronic arrows going like like telling me to go down them. And I was like, no, I don't think so. But these big squishy blobby things, like the size of it, like imagine an elephant with no legs and no trunk, but they were like brownish, like tan colored, and they were just looked like kind of tumor covered.
Whoa.
With these heads way down low. I did it. There's a sculpture I did.
That sounds awesome. I hate that.
I did a sculpture. It's actually, now that I haven't even, this never didn't even occur to me just now. I did a sculpture called Lummox a while back, which is kind of this big underbite looking big lummox type.
I think I saw. Yeah,
The faces kind of look like that, and they had these. So they were like the size of elephants, but they were just like floating by me and floating around, and it was so weird. And that was, but they were like backlit, so I couldn't really get a good look at them. That was the closest thing I ever had to where I saw like a cool creature in a dream. Usually it's
still pretty. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But everyone always asks me that. Do you dream? Do you get your ideas from dreams? It's like, when I have scary dreams or I have monsters in my dreams, they look like something you'd see in a carnival, like really bad, like in a haunted house in a carnival, like paper mache. Like they still have the same terror connected to them. Like in the dream, they're really scary and it's like they're real, but they look like they're made out of like paper mache and they have seams. Like, like really bad.
Notice that they're like kind of not put together well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you're afraid of. It's like, oh my God, it's so bad.
It's creepy in a different way, because it's like that kind of creepy. I don't know. I guess it's that creepy you felt when you'd go into a fun house, carnival fun house, and everything would just be kind of fucked up and weird in there.
So, I started a drawing a couple of weeks ago. And when I was drawing it, my intention was, because I'm working on this book of weird things you see in the astral plane, because I'm so obsessed with that right now.
Cool.
So I've got like a bunch of sketches and stuff. So I've been drawing more and more monsters lately. And this one was a monster. And the thing I was thinking about when I was drawing it was that this thing was basically feeding off of your energy. And it was a negative energy type thing, like feeding off your fear or something like that.
Yeah. I've got that's in the Dystopia project. That whole thing is that I have creatures like that in there.
Really? Okay, so I think these things really exist.
Yep, I do too.
That night, I was in that state of in between. Like I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't awake. It was in the in between state. What did you call it?
Oh, the hypnagogic state.
Okay, I didn't know. I'd never heard that term.
That's before. The science. That's how science tries to explain it. Like your body's asleep, but your brain's still active.
Yeah, I was having a bad dream about somebody chasing me,
right,
trying to kill me, or so. It was it was weird, and I felt really bad in the dream. And then I woke up in that hypnagogic state, and I could see this thing above my bed, and it was translucent, and you could only see the outlines of it, and they were like kind of goldish colored, and it had this thing coming off of its face. Like a long tube, and it was in my what do you call the chakra? It was like right there. And I remember I wasn't afraid of it. I was more pissed that it was potentially fucking with my dreams, and feeding off of the.
So the tube was right in the center of your chest.
Yeah, right here, like just coming straight down, and I could see up it was.
Oh my God, that's amazing. How did you come out of it? Do you remember?
I just forced myself to wake up.
Wow.
I was like, I got to get up. I got to wake up. And then, just after about an hour of trying to go back, went back to sleep.
Wow. Yeah, I got a good one. I don't know if I've told you this before, but my first out of body thing I was like 12 years old, laying in bed in that weird half asleep
that's where it all happens, man.
Yeah, in the hypnagogic state, and I felt a presence. That's the weirdest part of those is you feel a presence, even if you can't see them. It's like it's like you just know it's there and you feel it big time. And I felt a presence outside of my bedroom door, and I saw the light come on under my door, like the light go on, and then all of a sudden this guy was standing next to my bed, and he was like a middle-aged, heavy-set guy in like jeans and a flannel and like a down vest, kind of like a truck. He looked kind of like a truck driver, but where his head was, he was holding a pillow by the corner, and the pillow was just covering his face. So he just like had a pillow head, and he just kept hitting me with the pillow and like putting it back in front of his face. and like hitting me, putting it back, hitting me.
Oh, man,
And I was just like, the terror was that crazy horror terror feeling that you can
that
get.
sounds terrible.
And I was just like, I
Just
couldn't.
being 12.
Yeah, right. And I couldn't. And I had, the only thing is this voice in my head kept going, it can't hurt you. It can only scare you. It's just going to try and scare you. And so it's like I kind of knew that it couldn't hurt me, that it was trying to terrorize me basically. And I finally like I was trying to scream. I couldn't make any sound, and then I like
Oh yeah,
wrenched
yeah.
myself out of it, kind of, and I woke up. And as I woke up, I was looking where he was, and it just totally did it was just like in the movies where it was all like wee, like wavy, and then he just kind of disappeared. But you know,
I'm sure you were being harassed by some
according
entity.
from the magical perspective, those things would be lower, like lower
Vibrational.
lower vibrational beings. And
Yeah.
actually, the guy I'm learning this from, he's saying that's actually that the astral, it's been the terminology isn't correct. Like the astral is actually your imagination, and that level of reality is called the etheric. It's the etheric, and he says that, you know, it's like you're kind of not supposed to be floating around in the etheric realm, because there's just all kinds of weird shit there, like these weird entities basically all over the place that are just like, they're like lower than humans, and
Yeah.
just tons and tons, and they're kind of like what did he call it, the like the debris. They're just like the there's another word for debris that I'm not thinking of, but they're just like this kind of like, you know, leftover
To me, it's like
energy things.
it's like the cast off remnants of energy when people pass from this plane to the next that they can't take with them. It's like the shit that they leave behind, all the negative energy.
Yeah, could be.
To me, that's what that seems like. And there's probably other stuff too.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that's probably the case, because I think that's what a lot of people think, that, or a lot of people that are into this stuff think that ghosts are actually just kind of like the shell.
Yeah,
the energetic
shell.
shell that just kind of repeats.
Yeah, it's a cast off shell. It's like similar to what the person was, but there's no soul there. It's just parts that are still active.
Right. But there are some things that are aware that you're there, and they're like looking at you.
Yeah,
coming after you and trying to fuck with you.
Yeah, I think that they feed off of that fear and the whatever pain they're inflicting on you.
That's the feeling I get, man. I mean, I know a lot of people. Have you seen the Nightmare? That movie, The Nightmare?
No.
Oh, you got to see it. You have to see it. It was on.
All the movie recommendations I've got throughout the years have been excellent.
This is a documentary about, and basically they just interview people and kind of do reenactments, and the reenactments are actually pretty good. They're kind of impressionistic. So
where is it, like on Netflix?
It was on. I'm not sure if it's still on Netflix. It might be. It was on Netflix forever, but it's called The Nightmare, and it's basically just interviewing people that have had these experiences that you're talking about, and there's these, you know, common threads of pressure on the chest. People getting pushed, people getting, you know, like in that weird half asleep state, you know, shadow people standing there, and the feeling of terror that you get. I'm going to see if it's on here real quick, because you got to see it. You're going to trip out.
Now, you've been in that state, like...
it's not on here. You're going to have to rent it or something.
I'll find it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's on Amazon or something. Whatever. Anyway.
One really vivid memory I have of one of those that happened in San Diego a few years ago. I woke up in that state, and everything looked like it was cast in moonlight, that silvery kind of glow to it. It wasn't really color; it was sort of more black and white. Right. And there were these black shapes like coming back and forth, like all throughout the room. And at first, I only saw one. And then I noticed lots of them, like just all around me. And then to the left or to the right of me, there was a hole in the wall. and there was a white fire around the hole.
Holy shit.
That's weird. And then when I started looking too close at the end, at the shapes, one of them stopped and started to come at me.
Oh my God.
And then I was like, I think that's when I got out of it. I was like, I
Did
don't
you
hear.
did you have that terror feeling?
No, it was no. Yeah, maybe I did. I can't remember. I
Yeah.
probably.
That's crazy. Man. I mean, that's a good one.
Oh, I've
I
had, I've had some weird stuff happen to me.
yeah, that's I mean, I think a lot of people have had weird stuff happen to them, but nobody talks about it because you get ridiculed,
We have
for
people
it.
think it's crazy or
Yeah, but it
you're
also takes is one
sitting.
takes a couple experiences like that to at least go, you know what? There's just more than we know about. That's all there is to it. It you know.
Yeah, here's one I'll share that I had
Okay.
a couple years ago. It involved the death of one of my best friends.
Whoa.
So my friend Mike Biasi, he was a sculptor. He was one of the guys I worked with. I
Mm-hmm.
loved the guy. He was great.
Mm-hmm.
So he had something happen to him. He basically he had he had a blood vessel burst in his head.
Oh
I think it was
wow.
stress, and I won't get into all that. But anyway, when he was in the hospital, I visited him, and he basically was in a coma. He couldn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
He was under or whatever. And that night, I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna die. And I was really, really upset. I was crying. I don't really cry that much, but I was bawling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided I'm going to send all of my positive energy to him and try to really boost him and make him feel, you know what I mean? I was trying to help him
Right.
as much as I could. And I kind of went into like a weird breathing state. I can't explain it. It's weird. And I remember at that moment I was in his body, like I was
Really?
there as him, and I felt I could feel like I was trying to take away his pain. I was trying to whatever I could do, and I felt the dude's pain.
Wow.
It was really intense, and at the time we didn't know exactly what had happened to him, and then I found out like days later that. And when I was in his body, I felt this thing like in my head, like something burst. And then later
Wow.
on, I found out that he had a burst blood vessel in his head. But I felt it physically when I was doing this weird thing.
That's crazy, man. That's intense.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
strange.
not crazy, crazy. More like, wow. I mean,
That's crazy.
not. I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm saying I'm using it as an expression of wow.
No, yeah, I understand.
It's intense. That's amazing.
And then when I was there, one other thing that there was, I could sense that he wasn't like he was still there, but like he was above it all. Like he wasn't
Right.
present in that state anymore.
Right.
And I could actually see like what I thought to be maybe his soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like this winged thing with colors and yeah.
Whoa. Wow. Damn. Yeah. That's. I mean, that can that kind of stuff can I guess happen when you're in like extreme emotional states.
Yeah, I was
Seems to
really,
open you up to spiritual experiences. You
yeah.
know, that's incredible. So how did you come back to yourself?
Um, I think eventually I started to feel the pain, and it was too much for
Oh
me,
wow,
and it scared me. It scared me out. Like I was like, oh,
wow.
this is too painful. I don't. And then I had basically pain for like a week
Are you serious?
in my head. Yeah, I didn't tell anybody because I'm like, people think I'm freaking crazy. And now it's on a podcast.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you some stories, and then people think I'm crazy too. I've been talking so much about this stuff that I was thinking the other day, like I bet there people are into this, but I bet there's a lot of people that really just think I'm crazy. I mean, I'm definitely not lying. So I have to either be crazy or I'm telling my experience, you know. I don't know.
I don't think any of that stuff is crazy. I think people experience things beyond what you can understand.
Yeah.
Like what's logically explainable, because we only live in we live in the physical reality, but I know that there are multiple realities beyond this one.
This is nothing in a way. I mean, not that it's nothing.
And we're only here for a short time, but I think we definitely go on.
Yeah, there's a great, you know, I know you don't listen to podcasts a lot, but have you ever heard of Duncan Trussell?
No.
Okay, I'll send you a link because this guy he does these podcasts. They talk about, you know, spiritual stuff, but there's an actor on there. This was maybe from a week ago, and this guy basically died, and he went totally died, and the experience, how he describes what it was like to die and basically go to this other realm, is amazing.
Wow,
You'll trip out. You got to hear it. It's really amazing. The way he describes it is kind of like, wow, it really kind of rings true too. Something about it just feels true, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've heard things, and yeah. That I'm like, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Like that intuition.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that stuff is just following your intuition and not putting your logical mind behind it all.
Right.
Just trying to like, oh, that makes sense.
Right.
I can feel it.
Yeah. I've had so many weird things happen to me that like, you know, the stuff you're saying to me, I like it. I'm like, it's fascinating and super interesting to me. That's why I'm all like, excited about it. But I don't doubt it for a second. Like, I don't doubt anything you're saying for a second. It's like, yeah, I get these crazy synchronicities that happen that are just totally impossible. I remember I was in an airport one time reading a magazine, and I read, oh God, what was it? I wish I could remember the phrase, because it was this totally weird phrase that you don't hear. It wasn't an expression. It was just a combination of a few words. And I was reading it. As I was reading it, the TV I was reading in my head, the person on like the Today Show or something said those words as I read them, like in unison. It was so fucking weird. I just started laughing because it was so absurd, and like that was absolutely impossible. There's no way that could have happened. So I've had so many things like that, like just crazy synchronous things.
Do you ever have like you're like think of somebody, or you know somebody's going to call you before they call you, and you haven't like talked to them for a long time?
Yeah.
That's happened to me a few times.
Yep. Yeah. It's just at this point, there's a certain point in my life, probably, I don't know, in my 20s, I think, where I was just like, this is just the way things are. It happened so much. It's just like, I accept it now. Okay.
Well, I think also being an artist, that you're more open to,
definitely, and
more sensitive to things beyond, you know, the physical.
Absolutely. I had I'll tell you, just so you don't feel, just so people, some of the crazy can come on to me, I'll tell you a story. I had my brother tells it in my documentary, but I still remember it all like it was clear as day. I think it was around 12, 13. This is when things started happening. Weird things started happening to me. I don't think a lot of weird spiritual stuff happened to me until probably puberty or something. And it was the night before Easter. I remember that Easter Sunday, and my family was not religious. You know, my mom was very spiritual and had a kind of a Christian background, but she was more like a New Ager. You know, it was, you know, Jesus Christ Superstar was what I thought of as Jesus. You know, that was the. So that's how Jesus was presented to me. It wasn't like a wrathful guy. It was like kind of a cool hippie guy, but and ghost sightings, weird shit happening all in every house we lived in with my mother and my sister.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Big
Okay.
time, all the time. It was just like part of regular life. But I had this dream that I was with my family. I was standing in this line, and there was a cross, a crucifix, like a silver thin crucifix that was up like on a little, platform. It was probably like a couple feet tall, and you had to go. And the idea was that you went to get nailed to this little miniature cross, like you put your hands like this, and get nailed up to it, and you had to sit there for 10 minutes. And if you sat there for 10 minutes with these little teeny nails through your hands, you would get saved. And so my family's like, you got to get saved. And I was like, I don't want to. And, then they made me go do it. And I went up there and I got nailed up there, and it was like, oh, this hurts. And I was sitting there trying to wait for the 10 minutes. And then like after 5 minutes, I pulled one out because it hurt too much. And then I left the other one up for another 5 minutes. It's like thinking, oh, well, maybe if I leave one hand on the crucifix, I'll still get saved. So I was, I woke up the next day. We had to, I had plans with my friend, had an older kid in the neighborhood had just gotten his license, and we were going to go driving up in the hills or whatever. And I was taking a shower, getting ready, and I was like, oh, that was a weird dream. And I just looked at my hands, just like, I don't know why. I just was like, oh, I'm going to look at my hands. And then I had two little, like, little round, hard calluses. Like, they were not blisters. They were like a callus, but they were perfectly round. And the one that was in the hand that I pulled out early was lighter, noticeably lighter, and the one where I left it in was way more there. And it was really there. And I showed after I got out, and it looks like I got shot with a BB gun on my hand when I was a kid, and I have a little scar. It's like the BB shaped. It looked like that. It looked like that, but it was like a hard piece of skin. I don't know how to describe it, like a wart or something. And I told my mom about it, and my mom was into this stuff. She thought it was cool. Like, we all kind of thought this stuff was cool. And so she's like, "Oh, let me take a picture of it." So she took pictures of it, and I have a picture of I have one of the pictures, and of course, the pictures are all out of focus. It's like you can see my pants behind my hand, and those are in focus. And it's like, okay.
There were no iPhone cameras.
Yeah, right. It was like film, 35 millimeter camera. So that was it. And then I remember I went with my friend, me and these other kids. I was like, one of the younger kids, and we were like off-roading. And we got stuck in the mud, and I remember all day I kept looking at my hands while we were waiting for someone to come and pull us out. And then the next day I woke up and they were totally gone. No trace that they were ever there at all.
Whoa.
And it absolutely happened, and there's just no explanation for that.
I've never heard a story of a dream affecting your physical body like that. That's
and a weird religious thing on Easter.
Yeah, and religious, and especially because you weren't super religious. Yeah. And it wasn't pounded into you or anything.
Yeah, I know. Totally. It was so weird, though. I mean, but it happened. It happened. Absolutely happened. It wasn't a blister. It wasn't from like rubbing. It was like a little callus. It was impossible.
It's weird that it was there and then it wasn't.
I know. That's another thing. It's like it was gone. My brother tells the story in the documentary, and he's like, in a couple days later, it was gone. It's like, no, I remember.
He was a witness then. So
he saw it too. Yeah, he saw it. My mom saw it. My stepdad saw it. But he was wrong about that. It was gone the next day. Because I remember it was like it lasted for Easter only,
Only Easter.
Yep.
Well, that.
So now you don't have to feel so bad about people thinking you're crazy on here. Because that fucking happened to me, man. And there's so much shit. Mike, who used to be on, I used to host the podcast with, he had those kind of those dream whatever, astral projections or out of bodies. He talks about them on some of the old episodes where he like fully was conscious and awake, and he would have this he said this spider would come out. He was like young enough, I think maybe to be in a crib even. And he said this spider would come out of the closet and it would go up above his crib and then it would go down like it was going to land on him. And then as soon as it touched him, he would be like held by this winged creature and he'd be flying through space really fast.
Oh, whoa,
through the air.
Cool.
Yeah, he said it was terrifying though, I think. And then it would like drop him in some weird world, like this kind of hellscape with like, you know, you hear screams and he'd go and find where the screams were coming from. And it was like this big medieval kind of torture chamber with all these body parts and just blood and really intense.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I've dreamt of hell before or a place like it.
You have?
Yeah, that was.
What was
it?
That?
Was the floors were made of skin, and in order to not be like there were demons all around and weird creatures, and it was fire and all that. It actually wasn't fire; it was mostly all made of flesh.
Weird.
It was pretty weird. And I remember you had to sin while you were there in order not to get tortured. You had to do something bad. You had to torture others.
Wow, that's kind of cool. I mean, as a concept. That's kind of a good idea. Like an interesting idea.
When I was 7, that Mike's dream reminds me of when I was 7, I had this dream where I was in this place and I was flying and I was holding on to this giant worm. It was huge. And everything was like kind of yellowy brown colored. And there was this really deep, low tone, like a deep bass note that just was I can't do it.
Wow.
But it was like a very low tone that was the whole time like I was there. Like a low vibrational tone. And I'm flying through the air. And it was like fun. I was having fun.
Wow.
It felt so real.
Right.
And then a couple years later, I remember the Dune movie came out. The one in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah, David Lynch.
And those worms look like the worm in my dream.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It was cool. That was probably one of the better dreams.
Yeah, right. Wow. That's interesting. I've had audio things happen too in that state. I'll tell you one other one that is also in the documentary that's so good I got to tell you. I was I was asleep in bed. I was like in my 30s at this point. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was in that state. Mm-hmm. And what woke me up was knocking on my back door across the house. I heard like really kind of frantic knocking, and then all of a sudden I hear these footsteps running in like little kids, like toddlers size, like all these little feet kind of coming towards, and they're coming, and I hear it. And while this is happening, in my ears I hear this like crackling of cellophane. That's what it sounded like. And it just like all of the air was like full of electricity or static electricity. It was thick with energy. And I hear these little feet coming, and then they were laughing like little kids, like a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, like hee, like a group of these kids laughing. And they were coming towards the room, and I was stuck and I couldn't move, and it was just like absolutely terrifying, horror feeling of terror. And I see them come in the room, and they were invisible, like you couldn't see them, but I knew where they were. It was almost like I equate it to the Predator. Predator. You kind of it was like that.
Head around him.
Yeah, but it wasn't really. It was like there was actually no distortion, but you still had the sense of their outlines in some way I can't explain. It was weird. It's like I knew it was there, but I couldn't see it. And they all came running around to my side of the bed. And then and at that point I was starting to go out of body, so my feet were up. I was at like a 45-degree angle. My head was stuck in my physical head.
I've had those where you're stuck.
And I couldn't do anything. And so they all ran around my side of the bed, and then all at the same time they all stuck their hands in my head. And then I felt this extreme pain in my head. It was like really, I'd never really felt pain in a dream like that before, or whatever that state was.
Wow.
So it's just like boom, they stuck it in my head, and then excruciating pain, and then I was able to like kind of pull myself out of it because it hurt so bad.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's intense.
it was probably that and the pillow guy were the two scariest ones I've ever had. But I've also had other ones where it's like the terror felt the same, but nothing, I just knew there was a presence there, a guy like, and or some being, and it just felt like dread, and it felt like evil. That's the other thing. It's like my mother brought me up very new agey, like this idea that there's no evil. Evil's not a thing. It's more like, human thinking is what creates evil. It's not actually a real thing. But I've had enough of these things that were like, they felt evil, which it goes against my beliefs, kind of what I was raised. And that kind of shook me up a little bit too,
Yeah.
The sense of evil.
I totally believe like all that stuff.
I know, I'm telling you.
Yeah, you and we're kindred spirits in that sense.
Right?
Sure.
I know. It sounds like it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that stuff inspires me to be an artist, to do, because I don't like making, like as an artist, I don't like making things that, like I would never take a picture of you and draw it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I want to make things that you can't see or have never seen before.
Absolutely.
That's what interests me. Or like
Same
take
here.
something and show it to you in a way that you've never seen or never thought of. Or,
right.
Like to me, like I mean, I could never even do a portrait of somebody. I don't think. But I have no interest in doing that.
Right. Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I'm the same way. It's like, to me, it's so a large part of the value is you're creating something that doesn't exist other than in your mind.
In your mind, yeah.
Bring
something out of your brain, and that's what I really love. It took me a very long time, and I'm sure I mean, for any artist, it takes a long time to get those things that are in your head out on paper the way that you see them in your head. And to me, that's where I get most of my gratification. Like when I make something, I'm like, oh yes, that's what I saw in my head.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I like to do stuff to where I have just a basic idea, and then I just kind of follow the painting and let it become.
Oh yeah, I have that too.
Which is also kind of like it's weird because what is that? Where's that?
Where'd it come from?
You're not even thinking about it. It's weird. It's really weird. Yeah,
I know what you mean. Like there's where I'm just going to draw something and I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to let it happen.
Right.
Some of those are the craziest things.
I know. It's super cosmic and weird.
Usually it's my subconscious throwing up all that out and I'm not even aware of it.
Right.
Or like I've heard people say that it's basically like almost like an entity that sort of takes over or like
an energy coming through you.
The energy of whatever kind of inspires people, and then they just do these things and they're not even aware.
Right.
Which is cool and scary at the same time.
Alex Gray, the artist Alex Gray?
Oh, yeah. I'm very familiar with his work. I love his work.
He was cool enough, such a great person. He's a really, really amazing person. Great artist, of course. But he gave me the biggest compliment during the interview for my documentary. He said, Chet's paintings feel something. I'm paraphrasing. They feel like that they're beings that want. Oh, I'm gonna fuck it up. He said it so perfectly. It was like they feel like they are beings that are manifesting themselves because they need to be seen at this time.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, not only was one of my art heroes to say something like that about you, so amazing. It was also like, wow, I've never even really thought of it like that. It's such a cool way to think about it. Like for some reason at this time, these things need to be seen. I don't know why, but it's a cool idea.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Because a lot of people are afraid to face their own internal demons.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think at least what I make, a lot of times they're my own internal things that I struggle with,
sure.
In a metaphorical way.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that, a recent show that you did with all the you had like, I want to say like a principal or a lawyer. You had these like,
Oh yeah, the priest and the
yeah, like all
businessman and
those, yeah, like those are like
villains.
villains. Yes, like those things that all of us kind of
Yeah,
we know about, and there are villains in everyday life. Yeah, priests. Yeah, I've totally seen priests. Not all of them.
yeah, of course.
There's some super evil ones out
Yeah,
there.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. Well, we all. I mean, if you're a human, you share that. That's the thing. If if you take the magical perspective, which is basically reality is one thing, and the idea that we're individuals is an illusion created by our brains. When
Yeah,
reality is it's one big organism.
and we're all like humankind is all one big. We all share. We're all
Right.
one in a way.
Yeah. And
Uh,
everything in reality and too, because we're all made of the same raw
yeah,
material, really, you know?
yeah,
So you're the same as a rock and molecules in the air and,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
That makes a lot of sense. And I believe that when you die, you go back to the source,
yeah,
and we all share. We're all together.
I agree. I think so too.
Yeah,
You got
I
to
think
hear.
one of your interviews with recent ones. I heard you talk about uh, the some of the Eastern stuff.
Mhm.
What was some of the books that you recommended from that? I can't remember.
I don't remember which interview you're talking about.
Oh man, it was the one with the amazing tattoo artist who paints. It was a recent one, whose name is totally failing me right now.
Hmm.
Works for a high end kind of tattoo place.
Mikey Carrasco?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. You recommended. You talked
Hmm.
about some of the books that or maybe it was. I don't know.
I
Uh,
mean, my go-to Eastern book is the Tao Te Ching.
that's it. Yes, the Tao Te Ching.
You ever,
Yes.
you read that?
No,
Oh, it's really good.
I've read the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying.
Oh, okay.
That's a really good one.
Yeah. I like the Tao Te Ching is great because it's like just little phrases, like basically, it's like it's all that sound of one hand clapping kind of shit.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
it's not like that's more like Confucius stuff. But this is more like they call it the Tao. They basically God, what we would call God in our culture.
Mhm.
They call it the Tao, and it's the basically the great spirit of everything. And things like it says there'll be quotes like the Tao, if the Tao that can be talked about is not the real Tao. It's like you can't even talk about it because once you put words to describe it, it's you missed the
You've
mark.
missed the point. Yeah, like I think the belief system there is that you can't. God is incomprehensible. You
Yeah,
can't
absolutely.
can't rationalize or understand
Right. So you have to
what it
you have to
is.
talk around it in order to try and get a little inkling of what it might be.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's
need to read
weird.
that.
It's almost like looking at something through the corner of your eye. You can't look at it straight on, but you can see it if you let yourself look at it through your peripheral vision. You can kind of see it a little bit. It's kind of
Yeah,
like that. But it's great. It's full of all kinds of wisdom, and it's the
I love stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I was raised more Christian,
Uh,
all that, but as I've gotten older, I've been exposed myself to more other Eastern religions, and
mm,
I find that stuff like it really I really identify with a lot,
mm-hmm.
especially like the whole reincarnation and
Yeah.
like that, all that kind of stuff. Mouse has really turned into a spiritual.
I wasn't expecting that at all, but I'm glad. I love it when the shows go this direction. I mean, this is like it's like I don't feel qualified to really talk about this stuff, so I never
I don't either.
I never intentionally make, we've done a couple shows like this in the past with Mike and I talking about this stuff, but looking back in it, just having learned so much from these classes I've been taking, it's made me realize like I don't really know what I'm talking about. But so now I'm more like I'm open to whatever comes up, but I don't intentionally now try and talk about
Yeah,
this stuff because I don't really feel qualified. But I can always talk about my experiences because they were real, and my
Yeah,
understanding
yeah,
of them.
exactly.
But I love it when the show goes in this direction. These are my favorite ones to do. They're so much more
Um,
interesting to me.
so when I was reading the Tibetan book of living and dying, they talk about this concept of the bardos. You ever heard
Right.
of that?
Yeah, yeah.
And traversing the bardos and all that. And a lot of that stuff struck home to me in a way that I can't put into words.
Yeah.
Like wow, I've done this or I've been there.
Right, right.
But it was really, I guess you would say, a religious experience in a way. I mean, in a way that I've never had it. Having to go to church and all that.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. You gotta go where you find it. Where it touches you naturally.
Yeah. So, yeah, and even like there was some stuff about like how you bring children into the world, like it's the male who actually does it, like during conception, which is really weird.
Yeah, totally. Weird.
But they're the ones who basically usher the soul in, which was like, whoa, that's just trippy.
Right.
But I can see that with my own children.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see, yeah,
yeah. I know it's hard to
talk about that.
Right.
Hard to quantify what I mean, but
have you seen that movie Enter the Void?
Yes, you recommended that to me years ago, and I watched it, and it blew my fucking mind.
That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that guy going through the bardos or whatever.
Yeah, he goes through that whole.
Yeah, that's what
that movie is a trip.
Yeah, that's a really
in a good way.
Yeah,
I would never want to be on drugs watching that movie.
Yeah. You don't need to be because it's basically like doing DMT or something. That movie. It's really pretty amazing.
Yeah, you told me about that one at a show. We were having a conversation. Oh, you got to see this movie, and I went and got it, and I was like, oh my god. I think we used to watch movies at work. And I watched it with all my coworkers during lunch.
Oh shit! They were all like, "What?"
We were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, that's another one I gotta see again.
Yeah, actually, I bought the director's cut. That's how much I like that movie.
Wow, I haven't seen
that. That one's even like more crazy. Well, it's a little too much, the sexual stuff, but it's still
really.
Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable if you're watching it with like much people.
I mean, I remember the version I saw, which I think was the regular cut. It's like they go through like that sex hotel. There's people like fucking.
Oh
yeah. There's light coming on where they're. Penetration is happening. There's like a light. It's like I don't know how the hell they did that. It's
and it has the giant penis, right?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. They show
a close up.
Yeah.
Bro, or whatever.
That's a crazy movie, man. Totally. It's a must see though.
Yeah. It is. It's pretty nuts.
Well, shit. We're getting to like up to 2 hours here.
Okay.
Let's go out a little bit, bring it back down to earth a little bit before we leave, and tell me. I mean, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? Since moving to Ohio, you left the Halloween place, right? And
I'm actually still working in Halloween.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I work from home for a company doing concept designs now.
Oh, no way. So you get to work from home and you're still doing Halloween. That's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. It's basically I'm responsible for the boys' costumes.
Uh-huh.
And at first, for a long time, I was like, "Oh, this is not, that cool." But over time, I've come to kind of embrace it because it's something that, like, as when I was a kid, to be able to get a Halloween costume and be somebody else for a night, there's a magic there that
oh yeah
can't like it's magical when you're a kid.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like, how amazing is that? Is you're able to? I mean, that's some of the most significant times of my childhood were Halloween.
Yeah, mine too.
Getting a
Like,
costume and
go
dressing up.
costume and be on your own and get candy. I mean, it's like that's like a kid's dream. You know?
Yeah, and being able to create that to me again, that's that's better than
Yeah.
working on
So
movies.
like, I sort of I work indirectly for Target. So like all the non-licensed costumes that they had this year at Target, those were all my designs.
No way.
Costumes. So I'm really proud of that.
All the non-licensed stuff is the good shit. Fuck the licensed stuff.
Yeah, so like I get to do knights and monsters and ghouls and ghosts and tons of ninjas, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So you're designing them?
Yeah, so I do the concept designs, and then there's a team that sculpts it in China.
So how are you?
I go to China a couple times a year, or I used to.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was in China in January, actually.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was in China. I was sick the whole time I was there.
Are you serious?
I didn't have the virus or whatever.
Right. Oh my god. Talk about dodging a bullet.
Yeah, if I had been there like another week, it might have been really hard for me to leave.
Oh
like I would be not able to leave the country for a while. I don't know.
Wow. So okay, how are you submitting your design? What are you designing in clay or on the computer or what?
No, well, I do a combination of things. So mostly it all starts with paper and pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take it into Photoshop and then I'll render it or whatever. And then a lot of times what happens is a lot of the costumes I do require art, meaning I'll do a design and it's like a monster and he's got like a ribcage chest and we're not going to do the sculpts, but we have to do the art.
Right.
And they'll send me the flat patterns and then I take that into ZBrush and then I'll digitally sculpt all the detail in there and then basically send them the files and then they print it out with all the ZBrush art on it. So
no way.
I get to sculpt and draw and color.
That sounds super fun, man.
It is. It's a lot of fun. and the team I work with is really cool. One of the guys I work with, he's got like a mask collection dating back to, the Don Post stuff, like the old stuff. He's like really into masks. And to me, that's really great because that's like the core of, like, he's not just a business guy. He's really Halloween. So that's amazing. That's really cool.
What a great position to be in.
Yeah. And then on the side, I still do sculpting.
Right. Your own stuff.
I still do my own stuff. I did a Kickstarter a little while back. Well, you got the Dice Tower, right?
Yep, I got the Dice Tower. It's amazing.
That big Beksinski inspired piece.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
I did a Kickstarter recently. About a year ago, I did a Kickstarter for a Giger-inspired miniature terrain. Did you know about that?
No, I don't know.
So
I'm sure if I would have known about it, I would have donated. So maybe I didn't, or maybe I did donate. I don't even remember.
I may not have told you. I should have told you.
Yeah, you should always tell me when you do the Kickstarter, man. I'll definitely promote it for you.
I'll send you some images. So it's basically I'm into gaming. I play D&D on Sundays and stuff.
Oh,
cool. I'm a big geek, and my dream miniature terrain, because there's lots of terrain for gaming. So I made this Giger inspired terrain that basically looks like you're on the alien ship, from the derelict ship.
Ah, it's so cool.
So yeah, I did that.
Oh, that's your connection to get them produced, is China, because you know people in China.
Well, yeah, initially when I ran it, I was going to do. I was trying to get it done in China. I had the factories and all that like lined up and was going to do it, and I got quotes and yada yada yada. But I needed to raise $75,000.
Right.
And I only raised like 25, and I tried it twice. So then people found out that I actually did them digitally because I sculpted everything in ZBrush.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, "Why don't you just offer the files?" And I'm like, "Really?" And apparently there's like a huge thing of people who will buy your files, meaning your 3D SLA files or STL files.
Interesting.
So there's like a pretty big following of people, because the prosumer printers, 3D printers, have come a long way.
Oh yeah, interesting.
And they're pretty decent. I mean, you can buy one for 4 to, under $400, you can get a pretty decent printer. So people will buy them and print them out. So I ended up doing another Kickstarter of just the files.
Wow.
And the great thing about that is, like, there's nothing for me to ship physically. It's just digital files.
That's great.
So there wasn't all this crazy stuff. Like for the Dice Tower, I had to, had that produced in China. I had to ship. There's a lot of parts that have to go right.
Right.
But for that, it was just like, just do it.
That's excellent. That's a great idea. I could see a whole career coming from that.
If I were really into doing that, which I kind of am, but I kind of bounce around.
Yeah.
I can't stay focused that long on one thing because I get bored. I'm sure you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So now I'm working on another game idea, but it all takes place in the astral realm. Circle back.
Excellent.
So, and a lot of it's influenced by my dreams and all the crap that we've been talking about.
That's great, man. How amazing.
Yeah. So eventually I'll finish that. But it's so far it's been 3-4 years.
Right.
Of slowly working on that.
Right. Wow. I feel like this episode was a meant to be episode because you just like hit me up randomly. You're like, hey, we're still gonna do that because I totally forgot about talking to you about it just because it's been crazy and I just
I know I forgot about it for about a week.
Yeah, I didn't have anyone really lined up. I mean, I kind of I've got a list of people, but I just hadn't had a chance to ask anybody, and so you kind of came in at the last right in just this morning, right?
Yeah. I was like, I should email him.
It's like,
or text him
boom.
and see what's up.
I was kind of waiting too. Sometimes I wait for like something like that to happen. And,
cool.
And it's like, oh, okay. You just have to wait and it'll come to you.
That was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. Super. I appreciate you talking about all this stuff too. I know it's not easy. But I think that's important for people to talk about this stuff really. Because
most people don't, and I don't talk about it normally. I wouldn't talk about it to anybody like on the street. You know what I mean? Like I don't, or my family. I don't really, other than my wife, who I tell all this stuff to. But
right,
yeah,
I think it's good. It's good. People need to talk about it. It's important. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Really, really fun, interesting episode. Can't wait to post it. It's been a good run, man. These last 4 or 5 podcasts have been just solid, so good. Anyway,
yeah, I need to go back and listen to the Steve Wang.
You're going to be episode 156, so you have a lot. There's Brahm. We interviewed Brahm. The artist Brahm.
Yeah.
We've had Paul Booth. We've had all kinds of really big names on. So
yeah. Wow,
you got to go through.
That's awesome to be a part of that.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying. To listen to, you'll like. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear Paul Komodos.
Paul's. You got to hear his last one, the part 2 one he just recorded. So we're talking about this crazy stuff, basically.
Cool.
Yeah, you'll love it.
He's got like stuff. He hung out with Giger. Well, I guess.
I know. And
I'm like Giger, yay!
I know. So jealous. Everybody's jealous of him for knowing Giger.
Yeah.
He talks about it in the part 1 episode, actually.
Yeah, I got to listen to that.
Yeah, listen to both parts. Anyway, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience, for listening. We appreciate you listening and sharing this podcast. Please share, like, review, all that stuff. We're still. Just the other day, someone on Facebook who's been. She goes, "You have a podcast?" I posted Steve Wang's the podcast. I've been friends with you on here for 3 years. I had no idea you had a podcast. So it's like, this is still a word of mouth kind of thing. So if you feel like sharing it.
Yes, too.
It's crazy. It's like this completely grassroots underground thing. But I think the more people that hear it, the better it will be for getting guests on, everything for the popularity of, talking about this weird stuff, talking about dark art and, it's important. So please share, please like, please rate, all that business. If you want to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/Dark Art Society, and that keeps us making this podcast, getting that income in to pay for everything, and that's it. So, Jason, it was incredible talking to you. Thank you again. I loved it.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was so fun, man. Thank you.
Excellent. So say goodbye. Say goodbye to everybody. Goodbye.
Adios.
Adios.
Everybody stay safe.
That's right. Stay safe, people.
6 feet.
Stay in your stay indoors, please.
Yeah.